I got some thoughts on this like whole estrangement thing and this no contact thing and this like parent to child thing. I gotta get it out while I got a minute. If that's something you're dealing with, whether you're the parent that your child's gone no contact with you or you're scared about it, or the child and you've gone no contact with your parent, I think this is going to put a few pieces together. Just something I think about. My name is Trish Law. I'm a trauma-informed life coach, and I'm fascinated by why people do what they do and trying to figure out better ways to navigate really difficult situations so that there can be more win-wins. So this whole thing with parent estrangement like fascinates me. And I totally understand why. I mean, it is something that I think is like probably one of the biggest shifts in how we manage family stuff in human history. I don't think this has ever happened before like this. And what I'm realizing is there's a really big lapse on both sides in awareness and personal responsibility. I think there's a lot of awareness building for the kids because we have to become aware. We're waking up faster than we've ever woke up before. And I feel like for parents, they're just not getting it. They're not getting it. And it's creating a lot of tension between those generations. And it's kind of heartbreaking. And it's also understandable. And, you know, the solution to this is simple, but it's not easy. And it actually requires more effort on behalf of the parents. And the reason why that's true is because you never stop being a parent. I don't care if you're 87 years old and your child is 60. You're still the parent and you got to fucking act like it. Now, I understand that this is difficult. And I remember, like, I grew up hearing my entire life how hard it was to be my parent. I don't remember a time. I still, like, even if I was going to go home for Christmas this year, I'm sure I would hear about how hard it was to be my parent. I've heard that story so many times, and it hurts every single time I hear that story. And I know that that's not true for everybody, but that was true for me. And it's been a lot of work to maintain relationships that I feel like are productive with my parents, especially as I work in the ways that I do. Coaching authenticity and being raised the way I was raised. It's not easy to navigate relationships that have a lot of depth with my parents. And it's also not easy to go back into a relationship with one of my parents and constantly hear how hard it was to be my parent, you know, at the same time, which is, I think, honestly, a lot of what I'm trying to heal from is that narrative and how it impacted me. Here's the one thing that I've noticed, and this is without a shred of judgment. I'm not no contact, never thought about doing that. But I wonder what would change if my parent, who could shift their relationship with me very quickly by this sentiment, asking me this simple question. What was it like to be my child? Honestly, what was it like to be my daughter? What was that like for you? And honestly, be brave enough to hear the answer to that question. Even just speaking that out loud, after all the years of hearing how hard it was to be my parent, and for decades hearing that story, I have never once been asked by my parent what it was like to be their daughter. Not one time. With honesty, openness, with courage, with a genuine desire to hear that from me. And honestly, if I felt safe enough to share that story with them and they were brave enough and sturdy enough in themselves to hear my answer to that, I think we'd solve a lot of problems pretty quickly. But unfortunately for most of us, because of the dynamics of the situation, the amount of courage our parents have access to or have a willingness to leverage, or the amount of self-awareness to ask a question like that and genuinely care about the answer, to be able to put their own story aside enough to hear it, is probably why people are going no contact, because they're being forced to choose the narrative their parents placed on them or choose themselves. And unfortunately, sometimes I think people are left with feeling like they don't have a choice. I feel like we always have a choice. Boundaries are a great way to navigate that responsibly, but it's just something that got me thinking. And this is specifically for parents. When they ask me, like, I don't understand what to do. You don't get to be the victim if you're the parent. You're the parent. You can't ever in a million years make your child more emotionally responsible than you. That's not the way this is supposed to work, right? Parents aren't supposed to outlive their kids. Parents are also not supposed to be less emotionally responsible than their kids. And I think this is where people are just like washing their hands. So it's an opportunity for us as parents to never let this happen. I've told my kids they will go to therapy because of me. They should. I had a huge impact on their life. Like, that absolutely should happen. And when they do go to therapy and they do talk about me, which they should, if they ever have anything that they need to tell me about what it was like being my child, and I, in some way, shape, or form, have something I have to take responsibility for or hear or understand, as hard as it's going to be to hear that, it's my responsibility to listen to them. I need to be able to have somebody put up that mirror for me, no matter how painful it is. And until the last breath I take on this planet, I will be those kids' parent. And I make a vow to myself and to them to continue to work on becoming emotionally responsible enough, brave enough, strong enough, and willing to grow enough to hear their answer. Now, I don't know if this is a direct call to action or not, but consider for your kids' sake, rather than, thinking about your narrative and your perspective. What the fuck do you think it was like being your kid? I don't care about what happened to you in your childhood. That's your responsibility to manage. That's not your kid's responsibility to manage. That's yours. Your childhood and your unresolved shit, yeah, it's painful, but that's not your child's responsibility to hold for you. Don't you dare make your child feel bad about what happened to you growing up. That's not their responsibility. That's yours. It's your responsibility to be a fucking parent. That's my 2 cents. This is not tit for tat. This is, I'm hurt too. There's no room for that. That's not how it works. That's not how parenting works, babe. Grow up. More importantly, grow and watch the miracles that happen because of that. Something to think about. Anyway, I see you. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow.